The years before World War I were a time of peace and growing prosperity for many Europeans. Popular magazines displayed the latest products of an ever-expanding economy. Fascinating items that promised to end drudgery and add excitement to life. Ads urged businessmen to trade in their horse-drawn buggies for motorized trucks. Speed and efficiency were central to this wondrous new age of advanced technology. Europe's wealth rested on two things: its industrial strength and its domination of the rest of the world. This was the golden age of European imperialism. By 1900, European powers owned or controlled most of Africa and Asia, and all or part of every other continent as well. While imperialism was evidence of European strength, it also revealed a basic dependency. Each country's prosperity hinged on its ability to maintain and expand its colonial empire. This created competition among the various imperialist powers for control of foreign territory. Imperialist rivalry is considered a primary cause of World War I.
Around 1880, a mad grab for new colonies began among the European powers. Over the next 20 years, they seized vast areas of the globe, as wealth and power came increasingly to depend on colonial possessions. Britain led the way in this new round of colonial conquest, having long since outstripped all competitors in the contest for colonies and for trade routes that had begun 400 years earlier. For most of the 19th century, Britain was also Europe's leading manufacturing country, as the wealth from its empire promoted rapid industrial expansion. This, in turn, created pressure for further colonization, to provide factories with a constant flow of raw materials unavailable at home, secure markets where manufacturers could sell their products, and safe places for them to invest their growing wealth. India helped fulfill these needs. Britain had long been dominant in India through the British East India Company. Following a series of uprisings in the 1850s, the British government actually seized control, and the vast subcontinent of ancient civilizations became the centerpiece of the British Empire. In Africa, Britain faced competition from other European powers, whose appetite for colonies expanded as their industries grew. Only 10% colonized in 1880, Africa was 90% under European control by 1900. Britain and France grabbed the largest shares, with the rest left to Spain, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, and Germany. In Asia, China was the biggest remaining prize. Here, the once powerful Manchu dynasty was losing its grip on the world's most populous nation. The imperialist powers struggled among themselves for shares of the lucrative China trade. By 1900, most of Asia was controlled by one European power or another, either through outright colonization or through treaties creating spheres of influence, which granted the holder the right to exclusive economic exploitation. From then on, with Asia and Africa divided among them, any territorial gain on the part of one power could only be made at the expense of another. And Britain was the envy of all the other imperialist powers. A nation of some 40 million inhabitants in 1900, Britain ruled an empire with 10 times that population, covering territory almost 100 times as great as Britain itself. With colonies stretching over huge areas of every continent, the British could rightfully boast that the sun never sets on the British Empire. Middle-class British families could relax over their afternoon tea, secure in the knowledge that Britain's huge empire, its well-developed industry, and its all-powerful navy guaranteed their safety and comfort. The history of tea illustrates many aspects of imperialism. A favorite drink in the Orient for centuries, tea was introduced in Europe around 1600 by Dutch and British traders. These were the early days of imperialism, when in some parts of the world, European countries sought to monopolize trade rather than establish colonies. As trade expanded, tea continued to grow in popularity, although even in the 18th century, it was a luxury. The palatial offices of the British East India Company in London reflected the wealth derived from this trade. The company was powerful enough to pressure the British Parliament to pass a series of measures in 1773, assuring its monopoly of the tea trade. This monopoly had repercussions in the empire. It caused anger in the American colonies and encouraged their rebellion against the British crown. The 13 colonies, however, were of far less concern to the British than their holdings in India. And tea figured prominently in India's importance. By the late 19th century, after Britain's conquest of India, tea was no longer a luxury. Big tea companies now owned huge plantations in India and Ceylon. Using modern machinery and technology, and with an unlimited supply of cheap labor, tea companies could mass-produce tea and sell it cheaply. For the millions of Britons beginning to appreciate it for the first time, tea was a daily reminder of the higher standard of living that imperialism was providing. Some questioned the morality of a prosperity based on imperialism. Was it right, they asked, that one nation's wealth be based on the exploitation of so many millions around the world? That so much of a poor country's fertile land be set aside to grow products for export? While periodic famines took millions of Indian lives? But most Britons believed imperialism to be both necessary and noble. Like other imperialists, they believed their culture to be superior to that of their subject peoples. To them, colonial rule was bringing the blessings of civilization to the backward peoples of the world. Medicine, transportation, administration, and often Christianity. Many saw colonial rule as a mission, a responsibility, what the British poet Rudyard Kipling called the white man's burden.